www.wadr.org.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and Monrovia, 7 o'clock in Abuja. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Authorities in Guinea withdraw exploration permits from several mining companies.
Cleaning up the cadastre is something normal to free up space. At this level, it is also necessary to question the relevance of the process of granting mining titles in Guinea.
West Africa Democracy Radio and WATSI renew a 4-year strategic partnership to amplify CSO voices amid shrinking civic space in the West African sub-region. Rising insecurity in Nigeria's Borno State and Lake Chad communities as a state governor pleads for decisive strategies to tackle the threat.
Because the insurgency may affect me direct or indirectly, because it may cause spiritual conflict that will ruin almost all the states.
It really struck us down hearing this information. We really felt bad about it.
And Africa CDC announces plans to renew strategy against cholera outbreak across the continent. Details of these stories and more are coming up shortly.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us. The West African sub-region continues to face complex socio-political challenges that require collaborative efforts to promote civic empowerment, transparency, and democratic governance. As part of these efforts, the West Africa Civil Society Institute WASI and West Africa Democracy Radio have renewed a 4-year strategic partnership aimed at amplifying civil society voices in response to shrinking civil space and various social-political issues in the region. The partnership was formalized through a memorandum of understanding in which both institutions reiterated their commitments to fostering a shared vision for a more informed, engaged, and inclusive West Africa. WADR has consistently championed independent journalism to support free and open societies. Sankole Janko completes the story.
This renewed collaboration, which runs from May 25 to May 28, focuses on 3 core pillars. They include enhanced media engagement, through which WADR will serve as WAX's primary regional media partner to provide dedicated coverage of civil society initiatives through investigative features, documentary-style reports, and in-depth interviews. The second pillar focuses on digital advocacy expansion, which emphasized joint efforts to leverage social media, podcasts, and interactive dialogues aiming to mobilize citizens around issues of governance, human rights, and social justice. Meanwhile, the third pillar of this partnership involves training programs designed to equip civil society actors with strategic communication skills and journalists with expertise to covering civic engagement and governance. Dr. Nana Asantewa Afozini, Executive Director of WAXI, highlighted the transformative potential of media civil society collaboration, stating that the partnership with WADR represents a crucial step in ensuring that civil society efforts lead to real change across West Africa. On the other hand, WADR Executive Director Agnes Tomasi emphasized the radio network's role in fostering accountability. She described the partnership as a reinforcement of WADR's commitment to telling impactful stories, amplifying the voices of the underprivileged, connecting citizens with civil society, and keeping governance and accountability at the forefront of public discourse. This partnership comes at a critical time for West Africa, where shrinking civic space marked by democratic backsliding, State-led crackdowns on dissent and systematic governance deficits has weakened civil society's capacity to advocate for marginalized communities. Additionally, external donor freezes, such as the USAID freeze, have disrupted funding streams, highlighting the urgent need for local philanthropy and resource mobilization to sustain civil society operations.
Sankule Janko fight that report. In Cote d'Ivoire, the Electoral Commission has recently declined financial support from the European Union for the upcoming elections. The decision sparked questions given the EU's long-standing role in supporting Ivorian polls. The Ivorian government has announced it will fully finance the October 2025 presidential election without external donor support, a major shift from previous elections which heavily relied on international partners like the European Union. Over 55 billion CFA francs, about 0.4% of the country's national budget, will be allocated to cover all related expenses, including voter registration revisions and the purchase of voting materials. Christopher Aticho reports.
According to the authorities, this will begin the presidential elections scheduled for next October. The Ivorian government has indicated that over 55 billion CFA francs will be disbursed for the organization of the presidential election. These funds will be taken from the national budget and will represent only 0.4% of the state budget for 2025. According to government spokesperson Amadou Coulibaly, this envelope will cover all expenses associated with the organization of the election. Nearly half of the funds should be devoted to revising the electoral register and another significant portion to purchasing voting materials. Unlike the three previous presidential elections, this year Abidjan says it intends to go ahead without external support or assistance. According to observers, the same will certainly be true for other elections, including the legislative one scheduled for 2026. A choice that marks a break with decades of donor support for the organization of elections, said Deputy Government Spokesperson. The opposition denounced this as a maneuver on the part of the state to avoid the scrutiny of international partners. However, the government did not specify whether international observers, notably from Europe, would be authorized to observe the elections in the country.
A report by Abidjan correspondent Marcel Aruston-Blay, voiced by Christopher Aticho. In Guinea, the authorities are withdrawing exploration permits and mining site exploitation authorizations from several mining companies. These permits are now being reverted to the Guinean government. Conakry cites non-compliance with contract clauses and the provisions of the Guinean Mining Code. The decision of the Ministry of Mines primarily targets companies that exploit gold and diamonds. The decision to withdraw operating and exploration permits from these companies was made after consultation with the Technical Committee on Mining Titles and the National Mining Commission. According to the authorities, this decision is part of a desire to reorganize the mining sector. Fana Souma, Minister of Information and Communication, alongside Amadou Ba, President of the NGO Action 1000 Guinea, speak about the withdrawal process.
After consulting the Technical Committee on Mining Titles and the National Mining Commission, Minister arrests in Article 1, pursuant to the provision of Article 3, 24, 25, 26, 77, 82, 88, 89, and flowing of the Mining Code of the Republic of Guinea, the area covered by the exploration and permanent quarry operation permits is withdrawn and returned free of charge to the state.
Cleaning up the cadastre is something normal to free up space to allow companies that want to grow quickly and have the technical and financial capacity to develop their permits and be able to acquire them and move forward quick at this level. It is also necessary to question the relevance of the process of granting mining titles in Guinea.
Fana Souma is the Minister of Information and Communication, while Amadou Ba is the President of the NGO Action 1000 Guinea.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, to some security matters in Nigeria, particularly in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, and several local government areas, residents are in panic mood over the resurgence of violent extremism in the region. Fighters from the Boko Haram terrorist organization and its offshoot ISWAP have been blamed for the recent attacks targeting farming and fishing communities. In the last 2 weeks, nearly 100 people, including farmers and fishermen in the Lake Chad Basin, were killed by insurgents. State Governor Professor Babaganan Umara Zulum, who is on an assessment tour to affected localities, has appealed to the federal government to deploy decisive strategies and tackle the rising insecurity. Abdullahi Hassan reports.
Recently, we've done so much about the security, and we've discussed with the president and the security service chiefs, and they've assured us to work day and night to ensure security of people.
Professor Babagana Zulum addressing state residents over the weekend after a series of attacks last Thursday by insurgents that left over 53 people dead in Marte local government area. The victims, mostly farmers and fishermen, were among thousands of displaced persons relocated by state authorities back to their ancestral homes under the Reconstruction, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Program. They spent nearly 10 years in camps until their resettlement 4 years ago. In Maiduguri, WADR met Professor Ibrahim Umara, an international relations expert who gave reasons for the resurgence of violent extremism in the state.
When the federal government wanted to fight these bandits in northwestern Nigeria, the issues of insurgency have subsided in Maiduguri, and therefore they redeploy the command and control as well as the manpower on the ground with some weapons to red zone in the southwestern part of the country, leaving the few troops on ground without adequate platoon cover. And then top and the most important of it was most of these insurgents are surrendering. The other insurgents who don't want to surrender sabotage those that are surrendering. The best way is for them to attack military formations and formalities so that nobody will trust the reason why they are surrendered.
Youth in Borno who were children at the onset of the Boko Haram crisis 15 years ago are alarmed.
Because the insurgency may affect me direct or indirectly, because it may cause future conflict that will ring almost all the states.
It really struck us down hearing this information. We really felt bad about it.
Across several local government areas of Borno, villagers have evacuated their homes in recent days as insurgents intensify attacks against communities and military formations using IEDs, landmines and ambush techniques. The governor, however, reiterated his commitment to supporting security agencies in attaining lasting peace in the state.
Abdullahi Hassan reporting there. To some health matters, the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention intends to review its strategy to combat cholera. The epidemic is worsening and now affects 16 African countries. The AU Centers for Disease Control intends to draw inspiration from Mpox for an effective fight against cholera. Gashi Ngongo, senior advisor to the Director General of the Africa CDC, made the announcement this Monday. He stated that lessons learned from the fight against Mpox, particularly collaboration with international partners, will now be applied to the cholera response. You are still listening to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Authorities in Guinea withdraw exploration permits from several mining companies. West Africa, Democracy Radio and WASI renew a 4-year strategic partnership to amplify CSO voices amid shrinking civic space in the region. Rising insecurity in Nigeria's Borno State and Lake Chad communities as governor pleads for decisive strategies to tackle the threat. Africa CDC announces plans to review strategy against the cholera outbreak across the continent. We also have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Let's continue with more health matters. The National Public Health Institute of Liberia, NPHIL, has confirmed 4 active cases of the Mpox virus. This announcement was made during a press conference held in Monrovia on Sunday. Among those affected is a prominent Liberian celebrity who is currently undergoing treatment at a designated health facility. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
According to Dr. Dokpa Chris Yin, the Director General of National Public Health Institute of Liberia, NPHIL, the confirmed cases include 2 in Monserrado, 1 in Sino County, and another in Margibi County. Dr. Yin noted that Liberia has recorded a total of 81 confirmed cases, which includes the 4 active instances.
We confirmed by testing, and that testing is called molecular testing for this kind of disease. So that's what we did. Between now and next week, we'll be receiving more samples. So we'll be testing still. So the number may remain like that. The number may increase. But as of today, we have 4 active cases of Mpox in Liberia. We have 7 recovered cases.
In response to the situation, NPHIL has intensified its surveillance efforts and encourages citizens to report any suspected cases within their communities. Dr. Yen also mentioned that vaccines are available to combat the virus, but he appealed to international partners for additional vaccine supplies as Liberia is currently engaged in cross-border activities that support neighboring countries.
So if we are able to handle the situation within this triangle, it will not spiral out of control. We can be vaccinating in Liberia and at the same time in Guinea.
The World Health Organization has expressed confidence in the Liberian government's ability to manage and contain the outbreak effectively. Authorities are urging the public to remain calm and refrain from panic as they address this health challenge. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Meanwhile, Ghana's Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service has also announced 2 additional confirmed cases of Mpox. One is within the Greater Accra region and another in the Western region. This brings the total number of confirmed cases to 4 as of Sunday, 18th May 2025. WADR's Nadia Didity reports.
According to the update, the 2 new cases are not linked to the earlier infections. Health teams in both regions have begun contact tracing and other public health measures to prevent further spread. In a statement signed by Acting Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Professor Samuel Kaba Akorie, the ministry reiterated its commitment to protecting public health, leveraging past experience with infectious diseases to manage the current situation. It urged the populace to adhere to the safety protocols to avoid being infected. Physician, epidemiologist and public health strategist Dr. Banda A. Khalifa is also making a case for cross-border surveillance.
It's important for us to institute what I call cross-border surveillance, such that if there are any cases that are being imported from other surrounding regions or countries, to be able to detect those cases early. I must add that currently there's an outbreak ongoing in DRC and other neighboring countries, which has caused the WHO to institute a public health emergency of international concern. So it's important that we know what is coming through our land borders so that we'll be able to contain any subsequent importation of cases.
Mpox is a viral disease that spreads through close contact with an infected person, animal, or contaminated materials. Symptoms include rash, fever, headache, muscle aches, fatigue, and swollen lymph nodes. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
To matter of justice and human rights, Amnesty International has condemned the life sentence handed down against Anglophone peace advocate Abdul Karim Ali by a military court in Cameroon, describing it as a grave miscarriage of justice and a blatant violation of international human rights standards. Imo Edit has the details.
Amnesty International has denounced the sentencing of Anglophone peace activist Abdul Karim Ali to life imprisonment as a serious violation of justice and international human rights norms. The judgment, handed down on 16th April by a military court in Yaoundé, convicted him of hostility against the homeland and secession. Abdul Karim Ali was arrested without a warrant in Bamenda in August 2022 after he publicly condemned acts of torture allegedly committed by a pro-government militia leader in the country's restive southwest region. He had been arbitrarily detained for nearly 3 years prior to the trial, including 84 days in military custody under reportedly inhumane conditions. Amnesty International's interim regional director for West and Central Africa, Marcio Silveira, said that Abdul Karim Ali had waited nearly 3 years before being tried by a military court and sentenced to an extreme punishment simply for exercising his rights to freedom of expression. He stated that the judgment was shameful and breached international human rights law and standards. In May 2024, Ali challenged the legitimacy of the military court and refused to participate in proceedings, leading to his trial and sentencing in absentia. His legal counsel has since filed an appeal describing the case as political persecution based on Ali's thoughts, origin, associations, and political stance.
Imo Edit reporting there.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Let's take you back to Nigeria, specifically in Maiduguri, Borno state capital, and several local government areas where residents are in panic mood over the resurgence of violent extremism in the region. Fighters from Boko Haram terrorist organization and its offshoot OSIWA have been blamed for the recent attacks targeting farmers and fishermen. Our guest this evening is Professor Ibrahim Umara, an international relations expert who began explaining some of the factors leading to a resurgence in the area.
There are very many factors. You see, when the federal government wanted to fight these bandits in northwestern Nigeria, the issues of insurgency have subsided in Maiduguri, and therefore they redeploy the command and control as well as the manpower on the ground with some weapons to gray zone in the southwestern part of the country, leaving the few troops on ground without adequate close air support or platoon cover. That is one aspect. Second, they were warned that there is a real-time intelligence that the insurgents in the northwestern Nigeria and in some parts of Africa are assembling in the ungovernable space in Borno. There was an intelligence and it was sheer. So before they engage in that action, they strike. And then tap, and the most important of it was, most of these insurgents are surrendering. And because they are surrendering, the other insurgents who don't want to surrender see it as a way of sabotage. They don't want their fellow insurgents to surrender. And for them to sabotage those that are surrendering, the best way is for them to attack military formations and formalities so that nobody will trust the reason why they are surrendered.
So does that mean that Professor Babagana Zulum's initiative, the 3 R's, that is reconstruction, rehabilitation, and resettlement program, was a success?
It's a success. And as I'm talking to you, more than 70% of the displaced communities are resettled back in your original furnaces and arbors. So the resurgence is a way of Tawati. It's a way of subversing the efforts made by government in resettling these people back, because the moment you attack military formation, you are sending a panic signal to newly resettled communities by way of discouraging these people not to go back to the post-conflict reconstruction project. And that is the essence of the resurgence of the insurgents.
And is that what the Borno State residents feel at the moment?
And that is what we feel generally. And that's why you see the children are also calm. It's a momentum. And the Nigerian military is now at the top of the situation. God willing, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, was once the theater commander in Maiduguri. They will come with operational model. I'm telling you, Nigeria is the most powerful military in Africa. It's not that we love the technicalities and the strategies. We have competent military officers at the tactical, operational, and strategic level. If the Americans, the Germans, and British are serious, let them withdraw their so-called advisors. Let them lead our armed forces. Let them just support us with the necessary grip. Let me tell you something. When Nigeria applied for the supply of Super Tucano with our money, it took the Americans 5 years before they cleared to supply us with the Super Tucano. Which type of relationship is that? You are fighting a war, you are looking for a platform in order to contain that, and you are delaying the delivery of this platform until when?
Well, they said
everything is
that was that. The excuse they gave was that the reason they gave actually was that the Nigerian armed forces was accused on many grounds of
accused the insurgents of human rights abuses. So when a Boko Haram or an insurgent killed the Nigerian military, it's made a human rights violation. It's only when the Nigerian military killed Boko Haram that will be the essence of human rights violation. That's what I am talking about. Let them be careful about that bundle. The Americans, are they immune from human rights violation? What was their action in Afghanistan? What was their action in Iraq? They are the most brutal, the most arrogant, that even refused to sign the international humanitarian law. They were not even members of international criminal law, simply because of the arrogance and brutal nature of their armed forces. When a soldier is in the bush fighting, the issues of human rights ceases in a theater of war. But the Nigerians are so careful. The way the Nigerian military handled this counter-insurgency operation, if it were Americans, they could have bombed half of Mediterranean. We have competent military officers at the strategic, operational, and the tactical level. Let them allow them to do their job. If they wanted to assist us, let them support us with night vision Google. Let them support us with modern platform that will help track, interdict, and intercept communication. Let them support us with satellite intelligence that will enable our armed forces to precisely strike on the positions of these resistors.
Professor Ibrahim Umara is an international relations expert. Here comes Sankule Janko with the sports news.
We give this sport news with some heartbreaking news from Senegalese football. The local game is mourning following the sudden passing of Fadjouf Ndiaye, captain of US Wakam, who died on Saturday, May 17 after collapsing on the pitch during a top-flight match. The tragedy struck at the Parcel Assens Municipal Stadium during a Senegalese League One fixture between US Wakam and Oslo FA. Late in the first half, Ndiaye, aged just 30, fell to the ground after a heavy collision inside the penalty area. Emergency medics rushed to the scene and made desperate efforts to revive him. He was quickly transported to the hospital, but sadly, the beloved defender was declared dead. Out of respect, news of his person was withheld until after the match, which Wakam went on to win. Fadjouf Ndiaye was more than just a footballer. He was the heart of his club, a product of the US Wakam Youth Academy. He joined the senior squad at just 18 years old in 2013. Though he spent a brief season at Jaraf in 2017, he returned to Wakam where he helped lead the club back to the top tier of Senegalese football. Known for his strength on the field and humility of it, Ndiaye was not just a captain, he was a leader, a mentor, and a source of pride for Wakam community. And history was made under the Cairo light last night, and South Africa football fans have every reason to celebrate. For the very first time, South Africa are the champions of the CAF Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations. It was a tense and tightly fought final at the June 30th Stadium, where South Africa edged Morocco 1-0 thanks to a thunderous second-half strike from Gomolimo Kekana. South Africa now joins the list of rising youth powerhouse on the continent, following Senegal's win in 2023 in what's becoming an exciting new era for African football. And that's it for sports.
With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. A many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Umundayogo for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR English, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Kali. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM Riverside County.